Guys, welcome to another JellyPod episode. We have an exciting episode with Luke here, one of the co-founders of Profila, which is all about privacy and data management and being able to take control of your data as well as monetize it. So super excited to have this podcast today and learn just a little bit more about your history and your story, Luke, of how you got here and also what's cooking up with your project and just trying to go into the weeds a little bit more about what you
Sure.
are trying to do. So yeah, welcome to the channel, man. To kind of start this off, I love asking founders how they actually got here. So who are you and how have you co-founded Profila and gotten here today?
Okay, I'll give you the medium version of this. I'm an American by birth, but I've been in Europe the whole century, as I like to say, in Switzerland the last 12 years. Spent a lot of time in the pharma industry, doing kind of digital strategy, digital marketing, things like that, and went out on my own about 10 years ago, and then met Sean Jensen, our CEO, in 2018. And I'm a political scientist by education, so I'm not a marketer, I'm not a technical person. More of a macro thinker. And my first conversations with Sean, he was just talking about the things that I care about personal sovereignty and agency and privacy. And we're just trying to find a way to work together. And then eventually it was like, oh, I'd love to come aboard and be a, and that was, right was he was meeting also Michiel, our third co-founder in Brussels. And it's really a mission company. And that's why the three of us have not waned at all in our interests and our desires to solve this because we care about the mission of what we're trying to accomplish with Profila.
Nice. Heck yeah. And I was looking at it and we talked a little bit before actually going live here. How long have you guys been working on the project together? How far back does this go?
I think Sean really was working on it since 2015. Again, just thinking about it and doing mock-ups, things like that. I think probably 2020 or late 2019 was when we really got started with actually putting something to code. And we like to say that we had 1,000 conversations before we ever wrote a line of code because we want to talk to brand managers, we want to talk to privacy experts and consumers and so on and so forth, and figure out what's wrong with the current paradigm of customer relationships with advertising and what would be a better way and what role can we play in being that better way. Because I think we all kind of recognize that how it is now is it's very inefficient, it's very intrusive. Um, Everybody thinks we're being spied on, even things like our phones listening to us. Whether that is true or not, I don't know. But it feels like everyone notices the problem, but no one's come up with a viable solution. And that's what we've done. We've thought it in reverse. We've thought about it from scratch. And so if the internet was new, how would this work? And then what would the components be? And how do you empower the different actors to make this better for companies, for regulators, and most importantly for individuals?
Sweet, sweet. And I guess like going into it, because you went into it a little bit here, what's sort of for someone that doesn't know anything about the project, what's sort of like the 2 minute elevator pitch of what you guys are trying to do?
It's a long elevator ride, but I'll certainly try. And I would simply ask you to think of your own life in what I'm about to say. You know, everybody is marketed to through largely inaccurate, inauthentic, unethically sourced data. Brands are guessing based on the information platforms are giving them about their observed, tracked, stalked observations of us, and that's a reason why click rates are 0.5%, and that's why people get annoyed with ads, and they get annoyed with junk email, and they get annoyed with how their social media feeds are now mostly advertising when those Facebook was for friends and family, not for advertising, and now that's what it is. And so Profila is based on the idea that what happens in the world when each individual can create and manage and control the most accurate, authentic, and valuable information about themselves. How does that change the world? And the quick answer for our first kind of MVP scenario about customer relationships is, why would a brand like Nike pay a third party for bad data about me when they can pay me for the best data, more data, including like the psychographics that they can't get anyplace else, and they get me ongoing, almost like a perpetual focus group. That's so much more valuable. So in many ways, we're helping people bring a better product on the market, which is you, the authentic you, your digital twin, what's in your head and what's in your heart. And again, our first thing we're solving is customer relationships. Essentially, Profila is a two-way loyalty program. If I and it's reversing the model of I'm not subscribing or I'm not following a brand. That's stupid. I have what's valuable, my data and my wallet share. Therefore, brands subscribe to you on Profila. They say, we want to learn more about you. Here are the parts of your Profila we want to know about, and we're going to use that information to market you smarter than we can now. We're never going to sell on your data. You can control how often a brand can communicate with you. And brands will focus on exclusive content, exclusive offers, essentially bringing their best customers onto Profila for their loyalty program. So it's a two-way loyalty program for both individuals with all the brands in their life and also brands with all the people that they want to retain and get the most lifetime value out of. So it's reversing the model, but it's rebalancing things much more in favor of the individual because they're always in control, but also reducing the spend that brands have to spend on marketing because now it's acquisition, it's all spray and pray. Well, no, if Lego knows that all I care about is the Star Wars kits, then they can save all the money they do marketing and email and so on and so forth with me, with the stuff I'm never going to buy, and just focus on the things I want. Less clutter for me, more revenue for them.
Dude, I love that. I mean, that was a lot to unpack there. And it's funny when you brought up that phone thing because 1,000,000% I think our phones are listening to us. And it's just insane the amount of data that's kind of out there for each individual. Now, can you kind of explain a little bit about how the traditional system works a little bit more and then get into some like kind of like the new flow that you guys are
Sure.
doing with Profila?
Well, if you think about Facebook or Instagram, they're simply monitoring what you do on their site, and with Facebook, they can even monitor things you do outside of that site, with tracking emails and so on and so forth. And they're trying to build some sort of picture of you based on observed behavior. And I always say it's like someone in the bushes with binoculars spying on somebody. Yeah, you can learn a lot about somebody as a stalker, but you're not getting the soul of them. And then, of course, they are then offering brands. Okay, if you want to market to men in Switzerland, that are sporty, here are the people we think, or here's the like audience for your ads, and we're going to put it out there, and you're going to get your 0.25% click rate or whatever that is. And I think a part of the flaw of the current model is that digital distribution makes everybody lazy. If Lego wants to send an extra million emails to people, it doesn't cost them anything, really, in any real sense. The marginal cost approaches zero. Therefore, they can measure open rates, they can measure click rates, but what they can't measure is my annoyance, that I'm getting too much or I'm getting unsolicited emails. Therefore, if you can't measure something, you don't care about it. So what we can measure now in the digital economy is not necessarily the most important thing, but also a lot of it is built on acquisition. We like to say customer acquisition is sexy, customer retention is profitable. And so brands want to make the next cool campaign or whatever, and people want to be creative, so on and so forth. But finding a new customer is a lot more expensive than just getting your existing customers to buy more by knowing more about them. And so we are definitely, especially in our early stages here, we are a retention platform. We want to help brands, in this case, we want to help brands to, by knowing their customers better, can sell them more with less spend. Now, when we're successful, we'll be an acquisition play as well, because especially individuals will be able to say, well, I want to find new brands, new products and services based on what's in my Profila, and kind of smart matchmaking. And if you think about to answer your question directly, the current model is something I call searching and stalking. So for an individual, I've got to go to Google, search for something, go to someone's website, figure out how they see the world, navigate through their site, and hoping that my brain will say, oh, that's what I'm interested in. And that's a lot of time and effort. And on the brand side, they're just stalking me through social media, through data brokers, things like that. And that is such an inefficient, ineffective way of marketing or sales or customer relationships. The future will be about smart matchmaking. It will be about much less spend, much less clutter, because you're going to say, okay, we've got 2 opportunities to market to Luke this month for our new line of shoes or whatever. We've got to make it count, because that's all he'll accept is that amount of communication from me, because he's got a life that he wants to live. And so the quality of their marketing is going to have to be higher and higher. And I think I was at a talk a couple weeks ago at our AI community in Lucerne. It was a Zurich agency that can turn around new marketing campaigns in about 18 hours with AI. So this clutter we feel in our inboxes and our social media is simply going to get worse and worse and worse because brands are going to be able to create more and more content quicker. Or I had an email, and stop me if I'm babbling about this, but I had an email from a service the other day saying, let's say I want to send an email out to 1,000 people, 1,000 potential leads. This service this guy was offering will look those people up on LinkedIn. Let's say look you up on LinkedIn, read everything you've written on LinkedIn, and try to work in something you've said into the email that I'm sending to you to try to sell you something. And I'm
Oh,
thinking
wow.
this is the and so it's uber personalization, and I'm thinking that would freak me out. And so people are seeing AI as just a better way to stalk people. I was at a marketing conference last year, and all people were talking about how AI was going to help with segmentation and personalization. And I kind of raised my hand and said, "Aren't you guys just talking about how you're going to stalk people better instead of kind of taking a step back and saying, well, what if we were starting from scratch? Wouldn't we want to just ask people what they want and then give them that instead of stalking them, guessing, and then having a very efficient marketing campaign?" And that's part of the challenge for us. Our biggest competitor is inertia. That brands, hey, everybody's an Instagram. We've got to be an Instagram, and we're going to find brands that are like, okay, we know this is how marketing is going to be in the future. We know how we're going to relate to our best customers this way. We got to start now. We want to be on this. We want to be in Profila a year before our competitors, not a year after. And once that flood starts, it will go very, very quickly.
Okay, so to kind of summarize and correct me if I'm wrong, like right now, data is almost like this huge basket of information from all these different individuals are either buying, like, let's say from the Lego store, and you get a little bit of data about them. But the issue is there isn't this personalized aspect. So you're kind of guessing. There's a lot of guesswork that comes into it.
Yeah.
And essentially, what you guys are trying to do is improve the different metrics, such as click through rate, and make more personalized ads so they're not wasting money or making mistakes sending way too many emails to one person, whatever the case is, or sending the wrong content to that person. And you're essentially trying to get more personalized data so that these companies can have more effective marketing and advertising and thus acquisition of customers.
Well, again, not acquisition now, retention. Let's say we're talking to
Retention.
Radisson and they will run a campaign to say, hey, we want a better relationship with you, our existing customers. Come to Profila, you're going to get exclusive offers, exclusive content, because we're going to know more about you. And it's not creepy because you told them. You gave consent to certain aspects of your Profila. And again, the main difference in what we're doing immediately is the psychographics, and that's based on self-discovery quizzes. So if I'm answering hundreds of questions about very specific sentiments and preferences and aspirations about my travel, for instance, that is information that simply does not exist in the world right now out in the world. All they can base anything on is maybe pages I've liked or actual transactions, but they don't know what's in my head and they don't know what's in my heart. And they don't know what's going to come next. There's no forward indicators with the data economy as it exists now. But if brands that I love know that, here are the 3 European capitals I have not been to and I'd love to see, and they can give me a great offer for that, because they know that information. And if I then book a hotel, they also know, okay, I like to buy local crafts, or here's my food and wine preferences. They can actually create a travel guide for me for that city based on what they know about me to basically improve my experience in that city. And that's the idea of knowing more about your customers, and then seeing your customers through their own eyes, and then using that to build a better relationship with people. But again, this is only our first use case, and it's the most obvious one. But imagine, a year after we launch, someone says, well, I want to build a dating site on top of Profila. So somebody else, not us, but somebody else. Well, what's in my Profila is also much better information for matching on a dating site than anything that I could, if I've answered 10 questions on whatever the dating site is nowadays. So that's now a different use for my scenario, for my Profila, that now increases the value. Or I'll give you another example with AI agents. A month or so ago, I was I was on ChatGPT and I wanted to find an Alaskan tour operator for my mother. And I realized I typed about 5 paragraphs about my mother as the prompt because, limited mobility, here are the things she likes to do, and so on and so forth. And I'm watching it, and I thought, wait a second, in the future, your Profila will be your prompt. And so if there's an AI agent out there, and there already are, that can help me find a package tour, okay, which is a pretty simple scenario in AI agents. Well, right now, all that AI agent can do is ask me what I want. It doesn't know who I am. So in the future, you would then link up your Profila. You would link in, you would inject who I am into that AI agent plus what I want, and it'd be able to serve me much better than it can now, because it may, if I just say I want a trip to Bali in the fall, it doesn't know that I'm a windsurfer. It doesn't know that I have a lot of allergies or whatever those personal things are that would help them refine their service down to exactly what I need. That requires your Profila. So all these scenarios that will come up in the future, it could be your professional Profila. Therefore, it makes recruiting easier. Or I think I use, as an American, I still use a lot of U.S. streaming services. Imagine if I could link my Profila to Peacock or Paramount Plus. Well, now they would have more information to actually do targeted ads. Their ads could actually be relevant for me. Right now, they are not relevant to me at all. Or even linking my Profila to Twitter. I'm a huge Twitter user. I've never seen a relevant ad on Twitter in years and years and years of using Twitter. Because
Yes.
because they're guessing. They're
Yeah, they're
guessing.
guessing.
Or it's just that here's who paid the most to inject into my feed. Well, if they know more about me, then Twitter's going to benefit from that because they're going to get much better ad revenue, because they know me better. So the scenarios, each additional scenario, and I was actually spending the morning thinking about this, different scenarios will add more and more value, because we will know success when Profila becomes a noun, when it's just how you talk about your personal data, because it won't just be my travel preferences. It will be all my digital IDs with all my certificates. So a brand may want to have me prove that I live in Switzerland, for instance, because that makes me a different kind of customer. Or I need to do KYC. I can do KYC just in time because I've got all my credentials as part of my Profila. Even though we're not doing the wallet, we're just integrating wallets from someplace else. But also things like first party. So imagine if I've answered hundreds of questions about my music preferences, and in the future I can integrate my Spotify observed behavior on my playlists, what I've skipped, what artists I like. That now is an incredible vault of information that will be relevant for artists or tour operators or theaters or whatever. And I use this example. I love Vivaldi's Four Seasons. It's my favorite piece of classical music. If I had an AI agent that could tell me any concert of that in the 2 hours around where I live, a month before it happens, I would probably go to more concerts. So that would be something that
It's
again, I'm
true.
injecting who I am, what I want, and I can sit back and be very passive, and it just comes to me. Hey, there's something in Zurich this month. Okay, good. Let's buy tickets. I'll stop
So,
for a second here.
yeah. So can you kind of walk me through the process? Like, if I'm a user, I would go on your site. What questions are coming up for me to answer? Like, let's say I want to sell that data. How does that process work? Let's say I'm a company. How do I get access to that data
Sure,
and buy that data from people? Like, what's
sure.
kind of the sort of full process here?
First of all, you never sell and you never buy. You're essentially you're licensing it. You're licensing it. So in the scenario I talked about before, we'll use Reddit as an example. So Reddit. So I'm a registered Reddit user, and let's say I get an email from them. Hey, we want a better relationship. We're going to give you exclusive offers. We've got this partner Profila. Click and sign up. And so you would go and sign up for Profila, which you could even do today. And because I was invited by Radisson, they would be marked as a connection for me. Okay, so there would be a linkage. And Radisson would have automatically set up what we call a subscription offer. So they would say, okay, Luke, we want to have your gender, your age, your name, and your country. And we want access to your travel category and your food and wine category and your shopping category, whatever they think is relevant for their needs. we're going to pay you, 50 cents a month, and it's going to be for a year, and accept or decline. If I accept, if I consent to that, I'm now part of their subscription base. So they become a subscriber of me, which I can see in the platform, and I become part of their subscription base. And now they can market to me through the Profila platform. And so, while much of what we do is radical, the main feed in your Profila app looks like a social media feed because people feel more comfortable. But there's two major differences. From the individual side, the only brands in the feed are the ones I've let in the door. No one can sneak in with a sponsored post or a sponsored ad or anything like that. It's only the people I've let in the door. So in that case, in that first day, it's going to be Profila and it's going to be Radisson. The other radical difference on the other side is that I'm only getting that content from Radisson because I am a part of some list that they created that said they want men in Switzerland between 30 and 50. Here's how they're going to market to those people, and it's going to use my data to put me in that list and therefore make me a target for that brand. Now, let's say that interaction, the magic moments we want from both sides are, let's say a month into that process, I've already gotten some exclusive offers from Radisson. I've booked a trip. I've gotten some content that's interesting for me. And my magic moment is me thinking, why can't I do this every brand in my life? And then I can actually go and search for brands and vote for them. If they're not on the platform, I can vote for them, which then gives us, Profila as a company, the chance to go to a brand and say, hey, why don't you try this out? There's no SaaS fee up front. Why don't you come and try this out with people who've said, we want to be good customers of you. And hopefully from the brand side, from the Radisson side, they would see the increase in conversion, the increase in click rates, the engagement they're getting on Profila, and go, why aren't we doing things with every customer we have? And so we have kind of the networking effect on both sides, so that each person can vote for as many brands as they want. Each brand wants to bring more people, and those people want to have more brands, and next thing you know, it's kind of taken off. And when we win, your Profila part of it will be a commodity. It'll be a utility. You won't need to have another Profila with a different company, because we don't want to be a walled garden. We want to let people, entrepreneurs come in and create new markets using your Profila or hoping for you as a customer. But you only need one. You only need your Profila. And as we add more and more, or have the ability to add more and more data sources that you use to your Profila, and it could be your genetic information, your medical information. Now, that's not stuff that we're going to host, but we can sync to it and integrate it, and also be the contracting layer. So if a company wants to recruit you for a clinical trial, that contract, just like any other subscription offer, would be in Profila. You can see it, you can consent to it, and you can revoke it, which is the big thing. So if relationships in Profila, and we are a relationship platform, is based on consent, transparency, and revocability, that doesn't exist. I don't know how to revoke a cookie approval. I don't think anyone does. But you have an interface in Profila where you can see the entire relationship between you and any individual organization. And in the future, it won't just be brands. It'll be your church. It'll be your doctor. It'll be the city you live in. Any kind of non-personal relationships managed in one place. And and we're not a social platform now. We don't want to be. There's no sharing. When you're in Profila, you are the center of the universe. There's nothing in there but you and the brands you let in the door. But there are social aspects later on that we can imagine. That, for instance, if you want access to your partner's Profila, so when you go shopping, you can get tips and tricks on what they may like, dress sizes and color palettes or whatever for things that of your partner that you can take out in the world and then hopefully buy better gifts for your partner or for your kids, for instance.
Man, this is really interesting. And that's what I was saying, like in the DM on X, I hadn't had a chance to really deep dive what you guys are doing. And I mean, this is pretty insane. Now, have you guys managed to get any like brands or companies interested in sort of using this yet?
Yeah, and we did trials. Yeah, I live in Lucerne, in central Switzerland. We did trials a couple years ago with local brands and local people, which helped us refine kind of the feature set and also the messaging, things like that. And we've talked to, we've talked to many brands, big brands, a lot of luxury brands that, in the last couple of years, which are kind of, okay, come back to us when the platform's done, which it is now. So now we're re-engaging a lot of those platforms and saying, okay, let's see what a trial looks like. To invite 10,000 customers, things like that. So that's the process we're in right now, to lock up some of those brands, run some of this year is about trials, about doing experimentations with real brands, see what the results are, see the refinements are. We have a long list of loyalty features we want to build and add. We've done a lot of research on loyalty programs. And we want to work with these brands to say, okay, what should we build first? Beyond the basic stuff that we have now, or the first features, what should we add? So for instance, a points program. And we've got a partner, Unbox in Belgium, that can do programmatic tokens based on our Zeek token. And so Radisson could actually have a points program that those points have rules to it for how people can use that on the platform. So for instance, if Radisson is part of some sort of network of hotels and airlines, that might be those points you earn with Radisson could be used for a certain airline or whatever that logic and rules are. That's another kind of feature we want to provide, because loyalty programs are very expensive. We want to build a very, very good base level loyalty program that any brand can use on the cheap, and after bringing in their best customers. So that's the process but we've talked to Rolex and Red Bull and Hasbro and different hotels and different airlines and different consumer companies and luxury brands. And they all see the value. It's just a question, okay, well, at some point it can't be vaporware, but now we have the platform. It's enterprise ready, and this year is about trials.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, I can imagine, every single industry can kind of leverage this in a different way. But for example, hotels, it's like, let's say you're Hilton and you have hotels all around the world, and now you can send sort of an email to everyone that's signed up as a subscriber to Hilton and be like, hey, go on our site, answer these different questions. We're going to pay you for this data and give you exclusive offers. And now all of a sudden, some of the questions they can ask are, do you like the beach? Do you like the mountains? Which countries do you like going to? Like, is there anywhere on your list that you would really like to explore in the future? Like, name the top 3 countries you're interested in. And now all of a sudden with Hilton, they can be like, okay, this person wants to go to Japan. We actually have a few Hiltons in Japan. Let's send these guys an offer for 20% off, for example, of like a Hilton hotel in Japan, or let's at least provide some ads to them. And now
Sure.
all of a sudden, like you said, that personalization could lock in a sale, because now they want to go to Japan, rather than saying, hey, here's a random Hilton hotel, maybe somewhere you don't care about. So, like, I
Yeah.
totally see the value in that.
Well, in the scenario you laid out, though, someone's doing it on Hilton's site, which means that they're being selfish, because now I've got to do the same thing on every travel site, every hotel site, instead of saying, no, this is mine. This is my sentiment. This is my preferences, my ambitions. It's my Profila. If you want access to it, you can subscribe to me, but so can every other hotel chain in the world as well, can subscribe to me and give me special offers. I shouldn't have to go to you. And I remember early on, one of our advisors, who's a lawyer in Zurich, she said, well, why can't Nike build what you're doing? And I said to her, do you buy everything in your life from Nike? Because if not, then why are you going to go to Nike and give them all that information, but have to then go to Adidas and do the same thing? People are used to filling in surveys, and then at the end of the survey, they have nothing, and the company has everything. This is reversing the model, saying, well, when I complete a self-discovery quiz, it's not for Nike, it's not for Radisson, it's not for anyone else, it's for myself. And we actually had to learn how to phrase questions in a way that it's somebody asking a question about themselves, where they get the value of the answer, and they can then decide who has access to the insights that come from that. And that's a whole different sense, because if you stay at a Radisson hotel and you get a quiz, a survey afterwards, if you read it closely, you're going to be able to see how they've baked in their bias to get the answers they want from your experience. And we had to learn how to reverse and rethink how things are phrased, but also do things much more granularly. And so, for instance, we have a lot of questions that are image selection. So you get an image of a mountain cabin and a ritzy hotel. Where do you want to spend your next holiday? You're just selecting the image. Or it might be, we learned that you can't ask questions about travel preferences because your travel preferences for a day trip are different than it is for a long weekend. And that's different from a longer holiday. And so the same questions asked in three different scenarios, you might give different answers about the pace, about the activities, about how connected you want to be. Like on a day trip, I don't care if I'm connected. On a long holiday, okay, I'd like to check email here and there. Those are all micro preferences that there's no way brands understand that now whatsoever. There's no way. And also in aggregate, that can say, okay, Luke is a connected traveler, or Luke is a budget conscious traveler, or whatever, or Luke likes a slower pace when he's on site. He likes to travel to one place and do day trips from there. All these things are incredible insights, especially for someone who has 10,000 package holidays to offer me, to refine what they're going to offer me and say, okay, we've got one chance with Luke. Let's give them the three that we think are most ideal, as opposed to now where they say, okay, here are the three that may work for somebody your age in Switzerland. And they wonder why they're getting a 0.25% click rate on those sort of ads, because they're guessing. You got me excited today, so I'm fired up.
Yeah, dude, this is a lot. Now, kind of because you had mentioned it, and I wanted to learn a little bit more about it. What is sort of the blockchain aspect, and how does like the Zeek token come into play? Because I know
Mhm.
you guys just did your sale within this past month for the Zeek token. So, how does that token come into play, and like how does the blockchain come into play with this?
Sure. Well, first, all the contracts, all the data contracts are Cardano smart contracts. So it's on the blockchain. Um, and that goes to the transparency idea. So it's not your personal data is never on the blockchain. It's simply the contract saying, this hexed entity and this hexed entity have this agreements for this information, for this duration, for this remuneration, and anything revoked. Also, smart contracts are used if I want to assert like a GDPR rights. If I want to say to a brand, which you can do again immediately, even with brands that aren't on the platform, hey Nike, I want you to delete everything you have about me. That's now a contract, because that is a GDPR right that Europeans have that Nike has to respond to, and this contract is evidence of that. Now, Zeek is the coin of the realm. Zeek is the circulatory system of the platform. And so, it's one of the true utility tokens, in that there'll be many opportunities to both earn and burn your Zeek tokens. So you can get paid out the subscription. If a brand subscribes to you, you're going to get paid in Zeek, which of course you can cash out or you can keep, because there's going to be a lot of ways you can actually earn, or you can actually burn the token as well. And so it's simply the enabler of all these different relationships and interaction kind of types in the future. Yeah, so we're excited about that. And I said this at the Cardano Summit last year. What we're trying to do wouldn't have been possible 15 years ago without blockchain, because you need that infrastructure of trust and reliability. And we couldn't have done it without Cardano, because Cardano's ethos, their mission, is very similar to what we're trying to do as well. Where if you think about it, your Profila is the ultimate manifestation of decentralization, because it's yours. It's yours to manage. We're simply a platform to enable relationships. And so blockchain was the technology we needed. Cardano is the blockchain with the right mentality. And then our Z token is what's used inside this world to both earn, because I've completed quizzes or I've verified my identity at higher levels. And then burning in the future could be that I want to subscribe to someone else's, something we call bundles, kind of the influencer model, but much more mature. Okay, I want to subscribe to someone's bundle, and that also takes Zeek as well to do that, or the other things we can come up with. What we do is every feature idea we have, we think about how Zeek will flow through it. So it is so existential to how we think about the platform. And so it will just, it's the coin of the realm.
Interesting, and congrats on the sale. I saw you guys surpassed their minimum, which is not easy in
Yep.
this market right now. And
Yeah.
like, how was, like, on a personal note, like how did the sale go for you guys? Were you happy with it? Like,
Yeah. It was a challenge, because we did our private sale we finished up our private sale just before the crash in what was May of 2022. So a lot of those folks, a lot of our friends and family and fools, as those private sales are, were waiting for a couple of years for their tokens, but they were all very, very patient because these people we know and love us and understand the mission. We had to delay a couple of times the sale because of the market conditions. That ADA wasn't high enough, and eventually we were like, okay, well, we've got to get this done because this is simply meant to get us to the next step. Our token sale was not an existential event. It was something to give us more runway and get us to the next step, which is a seed round and brand trials, and let's get going. So in that case, it was the exact success that we wanted. It was a great exercise in kind of bringing the whole team together to do live streams, to do Twitter Spaces, to use Twitter more smartly or smarter, to think about all the different companies we worked with over the past and all those relationships and all those partnerships we have, and talk more to them and start getting a sense of what the community wants as well. It helped that we've been funded on Catalyst quite a few times in the past and had great success with the community as well. So it was kind of a thank you card to the Cardano community. It's been very good to us, and a community that we love. It's a challenge though because we're not building infrastructure. So Cardano is at the stage where infrastructure and memes are more popular than utilities like us and those who will increase adoption. Because at the end of the day, my mother's not going to care what blockchain we use when she's using Profila. She just wants it to be reliable and to work. And that's part of the challenge of crypto, is a bit of the tribalism, which as outsiders we're kind of seeing this, that we need better use cases for blockchain and for Cardano, because it's not just going to be another exchange or another wallet. That's not going to bring Cardano into the forefront. And it may be something like what the U.S. government is doing, that it feels like Cardano might be the best blockchain to manage a lot of the project details for the federal government, make them more transparent.
Yeah, and one thing I think that's always hard with utility projects is the fact that it takes a lot more time to understand what you guys are doing, right? Like it's very simple to be like, oh, here's a meme, I think it's gonna go up, let me buy it. What you guys are doing is a real world solution that is leveraging blockchain technology in an interesting way. But also, even if you take the blockchain out of it, you're building a company that's solving a massive issue and has huge upside, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, like, uh, like this whole idea, I could see really blowing up, and I can already see different videos out there of people like, oh, this is the ultimate side hustle. Like, look, you can actually, hey, you're giving all of your data for free without your permission. Now you can actually sell your data and you can, or like license your data and you can actually make money from it. And it's interesting. Like people's data could end up making right now there are probably hundreds of billions of dollars in the data market that is not going to consumers at all. And
None of it
even if you
is.
just tap into like 1% of that, the amount of like potential it can have is like not only a business but also a customer is insane. I even remember seeing something over a year ago now where the real gold rush is not gold or oil, but it's actually our data,
Yeah.
and how valuable the data actually is. And what's funny is what I'm learning from this call is the data that is so valuable isn't even precise personalized data for the most part. It's kind of like putting things into like a bucket or umbrella a little bit, but it's not getting like the main core information that can really change that click through rate from the 0.5% to 5%, like you were saying. So it's
Yeah, and there was an
interesting.
article I read on, and I got to reread it because it blew my mind, that it was saying that at any given time, only 5% of a company's loyal customers are in a position to want to buy in that moment. Only 5%, which means 95% of people receiving your messaging are annoyed by it because it's not the right time for it. And so the idea that if I'm now the master of my little castle, and I can actually let's say I'm going on holiday for 3 weeks, and I can actually turn the volume down for all of Profila, so I'm getting nothing. Well, no one's losing anything because I'm not in a position to buy anyway, and I can turn that back up when I'm back from holiday, or I'm back from whatever, or it might just be with a specific brand. Like I love Keen Shoes, which is a company out of Portland, Oregon. I've got sandals, I've got hiking shoes, I've got hiking boots, I've got regular shoes. Right now, they're all fairly new. I don't need any Keen shoes for the next year. So anything they send me, any communication they send me is a waste of their
It's
money.
kind of like what? Yeah.
Yeah, but in a year, when I want something and I can kind of raise my hand to them on Profile and say I'm interested. I'm looking for some new sandals. They're going to be able to make a sale with no effort whatsoever because I'm going to keep buying Keen shoes because I know that I'm loyal to that brand. So anything they're doing now is just wasting time with me and effort, and annoyance and clutter. Where in the future it's like, okay, I'm done with you guys for a year. I love you guys. In a year's time, I may need something, and I'm going to let you know. And I want a great offer at that point. So yeah,
Yeah. No, and that's an opportunity for them to even be like, "Hey, here's a discount. Here's something like that." But also we're heading to the end of the podcast already, which is insane.
my
Thank you to
colleagues know
everyone
I
that's
love Keen
joined
shoes.
in.
My colleagues
Yeah,
know I
I
love
was
Keen
just gonna
shoes.
say.
So he spelled it wrong, but that's okay. Yeah,
I know, but I also want to say it looks like we had over 130 people tune in throughout this today. So thank you all for
nice.
listening in. Gani, I see you in here every single podcast. What's up? And Faith, what's up as well? So I kind of like my last question that I want to ask you here is where do you see Profila going in, let's say 5 years, and what do you think is going to be the biggest challenge to accomplishing that vision?
Well, Sean probably wouldn't like me to say this. I think we're either going to fail or we're going to go supernova. And there's not much in between because if Profila becomes a noun, where it's how people don't talk about data anymore. They just talk about their Profila, and each scenario we add, or each scenario that someone comes up with that will use our Profila makes it more and more valuable. We could easily be one of the most important companies in the world in 5 years, 5, 7 years. I have no doubts about that whatsoever because what we're doing solves a problem that everybody knows about, but not enough people have thought about what the solution looks like. And the solution is not better stocking, it's not better surveillance, it's rethinking things from scratch, it's putting people in a position of power and agency and sovereignty. We don't talk about features, we talk about superpowers. We want superpowers and we want to give them to people to manage their own things. And so as long as we keep solving the UX problem of how to make this easy, we're not having to spend a lot of time managing your Profila, where we make it fun. We'll probably have a separate app just for UQ, which is our self-discovery quizzes, where if you've got a 5-minute gap in your day, you're just going to open up UQ and answer some questions about yourself because you trust us to know that it's yours and you're going to have full control over who has access to the answers to that. And you're learning more about yourself as well, getting your own insights about yourself. And not just some quiz you take online that tells you what Harry Potter house you live in, but something real and substantial. And as we get more and more successful, more and more services outside of Profila will say their service will be more valuable if people can inject their aspects of their Profila into their services and get better matchmaking, whether it's mental health advice or fitness advice or travel advice, or recruiting, or again, injecting who I am and what I care about into any service that I use is going to improve that service. And that's the mental change from the current paradigm that we have to break through. That's why I said inertia is our biggest competitor. We've got to break through that. And it's one person at a time, it's one company at a time. But somebody once said to us, he said, first of all, pardon my language, he said, this is a big fucking idea you guys have. And he said, do you realize that your total addressable market is every human being and every company, brand, and organization? We're like, yes, we understand that completely. That this will just be your relationship engine in the future, and everything will improve once we win. Because when we win, everybody wins.
Boom. Dude, I think that's a great point to end here. What a mic drop moment at the end. And
I do what I
man,
can.
I'm super excited to see where it goes, dude. Like
We
I'll
are as
definitely be
well.
paying attention to your ex. Yeah,
Good.
and I would love to do like a test run of it too, of like making an account. And especially like if there's like some brand once you guys get some brands involved and
Sure.
stuff.
Yeah, we'll keep in touch.
I
Yeah,
think it would be cool to go through the process.
sure. And this was a great opportunity. Thank you for having me today. This was a lot of fun. We love talking about Profila, and we can babble quite a bit here and there, but we know we're onto something great. We just have to execute now.
Awesome. Well, Luke, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you guys for all listening today. We actually have another, if you're listening live, we actually have another JellyPod episode in 15 minutes with a project called Beat Blocks on Bitcoin. So I'll see you guys there. But thank you once again, Luke,
Mhm.
and best of luck with everything.
Thank you, Jason.